So Ole Miss really thinks that they can get Jon Sumrall, and that might be a tad concerning.
You are Locked On Auburn, your daily podcast on the Auburn Tigers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yes, welcome on into Locked On Auburn, your daily Auburn Tigers podcast. I'm your host, Zach Blackerby, and thank you so much for making Locked On Auburn your first listen every single day. Lindsay, Crosby over at thebarnauburn.com, as well as a bunch of other places, hanging out with us today. There are mismatches that I think Auburn can lean into in the Iron Bowl this weekend, which is obviously exciting and important. Saturday was fun. The Deuce Knight celebration was incredible. How much of that actually matters over the next 7 days? But let's start with what seems to have now formed a battle for Jon Sumrall. Everyone is really assuming Lane Kiffin is leaving Ole Miss. And you heard rumblings early on, especially from my colleague Stephen Willis over at Locked On Ole Miss, saying, hey, if the Ole Miss job is available, they believe that Jon Sumrall would be super interested in the Ole Miss job. I kind of dismissed it at the time. Now you're hearing Auburn people kind of hint at the same thing, where they're almost it's almost like a race to Jon Sumrall to see, who can get all of this officially done the quickest. That's kind of what the chatter is, Lindsay. And this coaching search, I know it's all speculation, but it still seems to kind of continue to take another turn in this saga.
Well, the one bit of news that we do actually have is that the timing is not in Auburn's favor. We know the Egg Bowl is played on Friday, Mississippi State Ole Miss.
Yes.
And athletic director of Ole Miss, Keith Carter, put out a statement that said an announcement on Kiffin's future would be made on Saturday. So Auburn may go into the Iron Bowl with Ole Miss having already lost their coach and be in a position to try and get Sumrall to sign before Auburn's season's officially over.
Let's talk about another element of timing, if you don't mind, Lindsay. And this may have been where you're headed. If Tulane makes the college football playoff as the group of 5 school that is represented, which they're on the path, like that's not a crazy stretch right now.
Right.
And Ole Miss makes the postseason. Then you beg the question, both of those schools that are similar, like timing situation, is that better for Ole Miss? Is that better for Jon Sumrall? That's something they don't have to worry about as much as we would, because we're not going to the college football playoff. That's another element of this that I'm concerned with. And look, I know there's differing opinions on Jon Sumrall. Mm-hmm. Every report we've heard and every assumption that's been made across the board from media, not fans, but from media, is that it appears the talk is always that it appears that Jon Sumrall is Cohen's first choice. And if John Cohen gets stuffed in a locker by Ole Miss again, 2 coaching searches in a row, that is a problem.
Yeah, and the timing that you pointed out makes that more untenable, right? If Ole Miss wants Jon Sumrall to replace Lane Kiffin, if Kiffin leaves, I got thoughts on that in a minute. If they want Sumrall to replace Kiffin, Auburn cannot wait until that deal is officially announced to move on from Sumrall. They have to know by Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, or whatever, can we get a signature on a piece of paper, an official, it's not the full contract, those take a while, but the memorandum of understanding, right? Can we get a signature on that? We're not going to say anything. We're not going to announce it. We're going to be quiet about it.
Yes.
But we need to know yes or no, are you our coach? Or else we have to move on. Because we can't wait until both Tulane and Ole Miss are done for Sumrall to see, is the Ole Miss job a possibility? And if not, then I'm going to go to Auburn. Because 1, the optics are terrible. But 2, if Sumrall decides to go to Ole Miss in that scenario where you're waiting until January, now you're behind the 8 ball on the coaching search and the best candidates are gone.
Mm-hmm.
That's what sucks here.
Yeah. So, I guess the other bit of news, Lane Kiffin was offered, a ridiculous amount of money to go to LSU. And that's kind of what has catapulted this conversation. And
I
so
have the
go ahead.
specifics here from
Sure.
this is a report from Yahoo Sports. A lot of people have had this. A 7-year deal full of incentives that could reach $90 million. He would be, if everything maxed out, tied for the highest paid coach in the sport. And they've pledged a combined NIL and revenue sharing number for the roster of $25 million a year, at least $25 million. So it is top tier money to get and retain a roster, top tier money for Lane Kiffin to come coach. But because the governor said some critical comments a month ago about how the guaranteed money works, it is heavy in incentives. So that is a little bit of a different departure from a lot of contracts that do have incentives, but aren't a significant portion of the contracts not based on the incentives hitting. It's like 10% or 15%, not however much this could be.
Yeah. So if Lane Kiffin leaves, Ole Miss feels really good about landing Jon Sumrall. How should that impact Auburn? And so, I mean, obviously, like I think it's the public perception of it would be awful. Now, if you don't think Jon Sumrall is the best choice to lead Auburn, this might be a blessing in disguise if you prove to be correct, right?
Yeah.
And does Auburn pivot? Does Auburn beat Alabama in the Iron Bowl, and then DJ Durkin's stock goes back up? I mean, that becomes interesting. I think though, Lindsay, they're gonna have the plan before the Iron Bowl. So that's why I'm like not as gung-ho on like Durkin can win the job if he wins the Iron Bowl. I think it's going to be decided before that game is played.
Yeah.
And let me be clear. I think it needs to be decided before that game is played. So that's why I'm not as much in the camp of if Durkin beats Alabama, he gets the job. That's just why I'm not there, is because I think it needs to be decided before the game.
Yeah, I think Auburn needs to know an A, plan B, plan C no later than Friday. They need to say, this is the plan, and we assume, based on reporting that the media has had, that A is Sumrall. Who is plan B? And how aggressively, or like, what do you need to pivot to plan B? Do you need Sumrall to tell you he's taking Ole Miss? Do you need Sumrall to say he's waiting to find out what happens with Ole Miss? Like, at what point do you pivot? And I feel like maybe on Saturday, depending on the nature of that announcement with Ole Miss, we'll get some clarity here. But Auburn needs to know ahead of time and have gamed out these scenarios and know what they're going to do. I'm really curious, who is option B from what they've interviewed? Who is option C? And how aggressively are they going to pivot to those guys? What's more important, getting the coach in place on Sunday or getting the best hire for the job, even if it takes a couple weeks or whatever, how long it takes Tulane to get out of the playoffs?
Weeks is dramatic. But if the argument is for like the signing class, next Wednesday on early signing day, maybe I'm wrong. Like, I just don't like, it's important to some extent, but I'm not like too gung-ho on like, we've got to like make sure everything is perfect by next Wednesday. I might be in the minority on that. Like, that just doesn't feel like it's in the order of, I don't think it's at the top of the most important things. It's probably top 5, but it's not 1. So I'm with you. Like, what's the best thing for Auburn long-term is to get the coach where we don't have to do this again for a long time.
Would it be different, you're feeling about next Wednesday, if Auburn's class was higher? I think 247 has them at 40 right now. Would it be different if you had a top 10 or a top 5 class? Like, if it's a top 5 class, you feel the need, we got to get this done. Yeah.
It changes it. Yeah. And then a lot of the higher ranked guys like, Womack has been projected to flip. There's a lot of buzz that, Peyton Falzone, the quarterback, is going to flip. So like, I don't know, does hiring a coach fix that? My gut is no. And so to your point, like, I know you said like weeks and you probably didn't literally mean that. I think you just meant like an amount of time.
Yeah.
But it's like, if Auburn hires a coach next Tuesday and it's like a better fit and they feel stronger about it than on Sunday, like, that's fine. I'm fine giving up that 48 hours. I don't think in the grand scope of things, it's going to matter. You're going to have to hit the portal hard for this class anyway. Like whenever you expect this class to play in 2 years, you're going to have to backfill this class through the portal anyway, I think. So I'm with you. You got to figure out that guy. And so, does losing out on Sumrall fire you up to, make a push for an Eli Drinkwitz, or, do you call Kenny Dillingham again, assuming you've already called him once? Do you make the rounds again, and maybe you're more prepared to be a little bit more aggressive? Or maybe they already have a backup plan. Or heck, Lindsay, maybe the backup plan is DJ Durkin.
Maybe the plan, maybe Sumrall has signed and we don't know about it. And the plan is just to leave Ole Miss in the lurch if Kiffin leaves. Maybe this whole thing's a giant con.
That'd be awesome.
Orchestrated by Cohen and Jon Sumrall to just locker Ole Miss. Like, I want, like,
that'd be great.
Sumrall telling them, listen, when I'm done with the playoff, I'm going to sign. He strings them along. And then it's announced he signed with Auburn a month ago anyway. We now have a new rival, and it's Ole Miss, and it's glorious. Maybe it's that. Who knows?
Oh, man. Only in college football where that like not be the craziest thing in the world, the greatest sport that we all love so dearly, where it's the only place you would find that even as a possibility, and it not sound like the craziest thing in the world. Saturday was so fun, and it was so great for Deuce Knight. But over the next 7 days, it doesn't matter. That's next, right here on Locked On Auburn. Today's show brought to you by our friends at FanDuel. FanDuel is America's #1 sportsbook. Lindsay, I can't imagine wagering anywhere else. I know you're in the same boat as well. Tonight, Auburn takes on Oregon in basketball over in Vegas. Auburn, a 3.5-point favorite against the Oregon Ducks. And, of course, Auburn hosting Alabama in the Iron Bowl on Saturday. And Auburn still a 5.5-point dog in that one.
5.5 feel like in the Vegas zone. You hate that. It feels like this game's either going to be, a field goal or something, or it's going to be a massive blowout, and there's no middle ground.
Yeah, I'm kind of there with you. Hey, right now, FanDuel's giving new customers $300 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. So head to FanDuel.com to sign up and play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Today's show also brought to you by our friends at Alumni Hall. AlumniHall.com, or they've got 3 great physical locations in Auburn, Opelika, and Huntsville.
Hey, Zach.
Yes, Lindsay Crosby. Yes.
For those folks on radio who can't, or on audio who can't see, you have a lovely navy blue hat with the, like the old block A.
You like it?
The Frank Thomas era A and a green bill. That's wonderful. Out of curiosity, completely unrelated to the ad read.
Sure.
Where did you get that hat from?
I got it at Alumni Hall, specifically their Tigertown location.
Don't they have a wall full of hats?
They have a wall. Yes. It's written about in lore. It's sung about in songs. But the hat wall at Alumni Hall, it's special. It's special.
Yeah.
Once again, 3 great physical locations in Auburn, Opelika, and Huntsville, or visit it at alumnihall.com. Thank you so much for making Locked On Auburn your first listen every single day. Deuce Knight was incredible. He was absolutely incredible in his starting debut for his college career. And I can't wait to see the college football player he becomes, because he showed all the traits that you could want.
He's in the record books.
Yeah. I mean, historically good stuff. Yes, it's Mercer. Yes, it's a conversation that I will talk about a ton. We will all talk about a ton more in the coming weeks. But right now, when it comes to the Iron Bowl, there were people in the live chat on our lives, as well as in the comment sections. Like, does he have a shot to start in the Iron Bowl? Do you draw up a few plays and packages for him in the Iron Bowl? Solid questions. And the answer is very simple. No, you don't. Ashton Daniels is the starting quarterback for the Auburn Tigers. And that is that. And it'll lead to fun conversations about quarterback competition. What does Auburn do in the portal and all of that? That's going to be fascinating. And it's going to be so layered. But no, Ashton Daniels is a starter. Even when he was dressed out on the sidelines, it appeared that he was the starter, which is great. So now I think it's clear. Deuce, that was fun. Let's put it behind you. He was asked, DJ Durkin was asked, is Deuce QB2? He said, we got to look at the film. whatever. Hopefully that's an irrelevant conversation, but I do think Deuce Knight will be QB2. And so now you brought this point up last week. We talked about it. Ashton Daniels, between the bye week and then not playing for Mercer, and now obviously Iron Bowl week, you hope that Ashton Daniels has 3 weeks of prep time on the Alabama defense. You hope that's how they use his time throughout the week.
I'm going to nerd out on you in just a brief second.
Okay.
There's this idea when you're discussing superheroes and which superhero could beat another superhero in a fight, that the assumption is that Batman with unlimited prep time can beat anyone. I think Ashton Daniels with 3 weeks of prep time can beat Alabama. I think offensively, he can be good enough to beat Alabama. My question is, and what I'm concerned, I know we'll talk about this in the next segment a little bit.
Sure.
My question is, can the defense do their part? Because Alabama is a pass-first offense.
Yeah.
And we saw, especially early in the Mercer game, how Auburn's defensive backs in coverage did not have the best first quarter. But I think Ashton Daniels has had plenty of time to work on everything he could possibly need. Batman with unlimited prep time could beat anybody. Ashton Daniels with 3 weeks of prep time can beat Alabama.
It's so fascinating that we feel better about the offense against Alabama than we do the defense.
Based on how they performed all year. Well, okay. In my defense, the pass defense has been suspect all year. The coverage in the back, and you brought back a lot of defensive backs, and you've not really seen the year-over-year improvement that we expected from those defensive backs. So this is not coming out of a place like the defense as a whole has been this season a very good bend but not break defense. But the weak point of that defense, I think clear to everybody, has been pass coverage from your defensive backs. And now you can like that's exacerbated by the fact that Sylvester Smith will be out the first half of the Iron Bowl after being called for targeting. So not saying he was the best pass defender back there, but
no, but you'd rather have him than not, right?
Exactly. You'd rather have him and not need him than not have him. And it's like Ty Simpson, when he's on, looks like he's one of the best quarterbacks in the country. They've got plenty of offensive weapons. He's got a good play caller over there.
Yeah.
Auburn's got to be more crisp early, but I'm surprisingly not as worried about the offensive side of it as I thought I would be a month ago.
I think Auburn can run on Alabama. We'll talk about that in a moment. But yeah, you're right. Auburn has the 11th ranked pass defense throughout the year when it comes to just yards per game through the air. And one thing I hear a ton of, and I wish it was correct, is, well, they're on the field a ton, and so that impacts their numbers. And like, sure, I mean, obviously, like the more plays you're on the field, it's gonna impact you. But their yards allowed per attempt is 13th. It's 13th in the SEC. So it's actually worse.
Yeah.
The only defense is giving up more per pass attempt. Florida, which they're bad. Kentucky, which hurts to say that we scored, 3 points against them. And then Arkansas, who's like historically awful at defense this year, which we could not score a touchdown on in the second half with Hugh Freeze as the head coach. So all that being said, like they haven't been great throughout all of this. So that's a problem. I do think there is a narrative that is twisted somewhat, and you hinted at it a little bit, like overall development. And a lot of people are saying, like, how wrong we were, which is fine. Like, we were wrong in this. But we have this discussion like it's the entire defensive backfield, and it's not.
Yeah.
Like, to act like Jay Crawford hasn't gotten better, I think is silly. But for whatever reason, Caleb Harris, and we saw this early on. We saw it against Baylor when Auburn's defense had a chance to, step on their throat, and he just like didn't cover a guy running down the field on a 4th down play. We saw from the very get-go how much of a step back he's taken. Very strange, because he was great as a freshman. And like, to say we were like, There's no way we should have expected that going into the season. Same with Kay and Lee.
Hang on, before you move on to Kay and Lee,
Yeah,
I have the stats from PFF on Caleb Harris. 322 snaps in coverage. Opposing passers have a 66.7% completion percentage against him with an NFL passer rating of 105.1.
Do you have the amount of receptions he's allowed?
He has allowed 12 on 18 targets for 258 yards, including 141 after the catch.
Yeah, I mean, the ones he's allowed have been pretty big, for sure.
Yeah.
And there was something against Mercer where he's just lucky that the guys didn't catch it. And then Kay and Lee is another where I've been surprised that he hasn't taken that next step. He's got all the traits that you want in a guy playing corner. And he was better as a freshman. He was better as a freshman than he is now. And that's a problem. That's a problem. That's something they're going to have to discuss as a defensive coaching staff, assuming DJ Durkin and some of these guys stick around.
Second most targets of any defender to Kay and Lee. And the only guy ahead of him in targets is a linebacker, Xavier Atkins. Like, they are targeting. He is the number one targeted cornerback.
I mean, it's clear that was Mercer's game plan.
Yeah.
And if you're Alabama and you're Ty Simpson, like, how are you not licking your lips at this?
Yeah. It's not great.
Like, I mean, Ryan Grubb, there's no way they don't attack those guys over and over and over again. There's no way.
Yeah. But again, like up front, everybody, I know PFF grades are not the be all end all. There's a lot of nuance in there.
No, but stuff you just used it for is
that's like, objective.
The grades are kind of whatever. Yeah. But that stuff, like the charting, like that's actually pretty helpful.
Speaking of the grades, if you sort every Division I team this year by the coverage grade, Auburn is 17th worst in college football.
Yeah.
But again, that's the grades, and the grades are a little bit different than the actual individual charting of the plays. That's the useful thing. And what it tells us is that, like, they're attacking Kay and Lee. They're able to get passes completed against Caleb Harris, and they're big ones. They're chunk plays. They average 21.5 yards of reception against Caleb Harris. To your point, when he gives up a pass, it's a big one. It hurts, and that's a problem.
Yeah. Yeah. So we will see. Well, yeah, we'll see how they adjust. But there are mismatches that I think benefit the Auburn Tigers. That's next right here on Locked On Auburn. Today's show brought to you by our friends at Game Time. Game Time is the best place to buy tickets. Look, I'm not going to sugarcoat it. It's going to be tough to get tickets to the Iron Bowl unless you download the Game Time app and check out everything they've got to offer. They're not going to be cheap. It's going to cost money to get there. But look, Game Time can help you. You can use promo code LOCKEDONCollege to get $20 off your first purchase. It's going to be more cost-effective on Game Time than anywhere else. And man, it's got the making to be an incredible Iron Bowl. Lindsay, Crosby.
This is everything you want as an Auburn fan, right? The offenses look better. You are at home at night.
Yes.
We have, as of time of recording, we do not have confirmation, but there's been whispers that game day is at least considering Auburn.
How fun.
I mean, this is phenomenal. This is everything you want, and this is prime for an upset.
Yeah. Take the guesswork out of buying college football tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, that is promo code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, go. Download Game Time today. Thank you so much for making Locked On Auburn your first listen every single day. Mentioned it before. I'll mention it again. I'll mention it all week. I think Auburn should be able to run the football on Alabama. We've seen teams that have really sold out to run it on them. They've been able to when they've had the horses to do so. I think Auburn does have the horses to do so. And when you look at what Florida State was able to do, and when you look at what Oklahoma was able to do, I think Auburn has the personnel and now has the play caller to do it. I said all year to just people off air and my friends, like, man, we could run on Alabama, but Hugh Freeze just isn't going to want to do it. He's just not going to do it. Now with Derek Nix calling plays, I think there's a chance at it, Lindsay. And I think there's a chance that Cam Coleman can consistently win one-on-one matchups. And I think there's a chance that they can use Eric Singleton in creative ways and Malcolm Simmons in creative ways. I think they've been working on this game plan for the last several weeks since the bye week.
Mhm.
And I think we're going to see some fun stuff because this is an Auburn team with nothing to lose and an offensive coaching staff that knows they're probably not going to be retained. So let's throw it all out there for interviews that are coming up over the coming weeks.
The key here, I kind of touched on it in the last segment, the key here is keeping up with them score-wise early. Because, like, I'm thinking about the Alabama-Tennessee game, right? Number 11, Tennessee. Alabama wins 37-20. But Tennessee had a lot of success running the ball. Deshaun Bishop had almost 9 yards per carry, had 123 yards and 2 touchdowns. The problem is they gave up 16 points in the second quarter, and it was 23-7 at halftime. So they had to abandon the run and go to the pass.
Yeah.
Like, Auburn has the horses to control the clock, right? Keep their offense off the field. Auburn has the horses to run the ball against them and has the studs to make the big plays in your Cam Coleman, Eric Singleton, all those guys. It's just going to be down to, can you keep the score close enough where you still have the full playbook available to you? Like a lot of think back to some of the great Iron Bowls we've seen recently, Nick Marshall and Sammy Coates and the kick six and all of that. Part of the reason Auburn's able to do all of the stuff that they do, Marshall pulling it down and throwing to Coates, is because the game was close. They weren't forced to just go to the pass and be one-dimensional, and Auburn's got to make sure they can do that this weekend.
Yeah, I think you're right. And, whether it's Jeremiah Cobb or Ashton Daniels, or, you figure out ways to get Malcolm Simmons the ball or give Omar a larger role or bring Darrell Robinson on in a larger role. It doesn't matter. I think they have the guys, but it's funny enough, like I'm worried about the defense, but somehow, man, like Auburn defenses show up for this game every year. It doesn't matter how good or bad we are. Auburn defenses typically always show up when we have the guys that can do it. And we do have the guys physically that can do it. So that's kind of where I'm willing to kind of have some belief with all of this.
Yeah, this is a game where the record doesn't matter. Upsets don't happen a ton in this series, right? It's almost always the better team in the standings wins the game, but the game's a lot closer than the records and the standings would have you believe. You can just look at last year.
Right.
As far as, and this is, again, you have the advantage of Auburn is at home at night. And we saw what that stadium looked like on Saturday for a cupcake team. They're a pretty good team.
Yeah, Mercer's a good team.
Mercer's a good team. But for a lower division team during fall break, we saw what that stadium looked like.
Yep.
It's going to be even louder, even worse. You mentioned Game Time. The ticket prices on there, the best I've seen, but they're still pretty high because this is Alabama and this game is just different. This game is for the state like what Auburn versus Opelika High Schools was on Friday night for the cities here in town. Yeah,
that was crazy. I've heard a lot of stories. They ran out of food in the stadium before the game started.
Yeah, there was a lot of. I don't think they expected it to be that loud and that raucous. They had to limit which gates you could come in. Auburn had to come in this gate. Opelika fans had to come in this gate, and they physically divided the two sides of the stadium so you couldn't interact. It was a whole thing. Yeah, that's wild. That's wild. Good game. But all in all, yeah, I think Auburn has some mismatches. I think Cam Coleman's a mismatch. I think running game is a mismatch. We'll see how that translates on Saturday. Lindsay, Crosby, how can people check out everything you've got going on? I'm on social media at Crosby Baseball. A lot of MLB stuff right now. BravesToday.com is the Substack. Braves Today is the podcast. If you can podcast it on YouTube. We are going hot and heavy 5 days a week right now talking about your Atlanta Braves and then all the Auburn baseball stuff, thebarnauburn.com. Please like the video. Please subscribe. We'll see you next time. This has been Locked on Auburn.